Welcome, beautiful hearts. We are so excited to have you in this very special introduction to the Awakened Extra Transmission. Jane Ang is here to give us an overview of this upcoming series of live transmissions, what it's all about, and why it's so important. Hi, Jean. Thank you. Welcome for being here.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Really excited about this series on the awakened extraterrestrial transmissions and contact. And, it's been something that I've been doing with the groups and people around the world have been doing with groups for probably the last even 30 or 40 years, but ramping up into the last probably 20 in 10 years, particularly with working with Stephen Greer, which we can talk about. But it's probably a culmination of a lot of different other transmissions that we've been doing together. But this is sort of the way people can make their own contact.
I know we so want to make contact. I have been hearing people share their experiences of contact in the invisible, contact in the unseen. And so your experience is more of contact with the seen. And so that helps us make the unseen seen in a way. And so what do you have to say about that? Because it's almost like it's twofold, right? You can do it on an etheric level, but what you're talking about is more of a physical level, a sight level, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just a little background. We probably talked about this in some of the background where I made connections with the Arcturians, the intergalactics, and we did the Zermatt, the Golden Lions. And these were all, like you said, physical experiences that like a group had, usually in a sacred site where we would see, these different lights in the sky. And I was recently reviewing some of and I learned those protocols from Stephen Greer, which actually I did a number of trainings in 2009, 2010 in Mount Shasta, two trainings with him, and then one in Joshua Tree. And then from those protocols, like I guess that would be about 15 years, I would go with different groups, usually at retreats to do these contact protocols, kind of leading or facilitating that. But recently, I kind of reviewed one of his online programs where he did a series, contact protocol out in the ocean, actually in the Caribbean. I think that was the first time. And it was a little bit like integrating 15 years of experiences because I realized like he was reviewing, the material I had seen 15 years ago. And of course, he has evolved in his presentation and experiences. And I realized just how significant the contact that we had in those 15 years together, with these different groups. I'm kind of reviewing kind of a little bit on, what happens, with particularly extraterrestrial contact. And maybe we can get a little bit into this. Of course, we'll go deep in this in the series that we're having. But extraterrestrial contact sometimes gets confused or bled into with other type of spiritual contact. So there's sort of astral beings, spiritual beings. I wouldn't call them extraterrestrial. These could be like our ancestors or your mother or father or grandparents who passed away, good friends, just people in the spirit world. And of course, spiritual beings that aren't necessarily human beings. And then there's extraterrestrial beings that have technology. This is sort of the knowledge that I think Stephen Greer brings in that are anchored. They're actually in the physical world, but they could be in worlds, very far away from ours, distantly. But they're much more evolved. Their consciousness is very evolved, and their technology is fused with this unity consciousness. So their technology actually looks spiritual, or you could even say it is spiritual, but they're still beings that are anchored in the physical world. And so the way they would like travel, let's say you had a civilization that's, let's say 10,000 light years away. That's not even that far. So they couldn't do they can't even do, their technology is not based on light because it would take them 10,000 years to appear here, if that makes sense to people. And that's already something So they're actually shifting into the astral domain. And when they appear here, they shift out slightly and they look like light to us, like whether it's a power up that probably people have seen, some people here who have done this or are familiar with this, or they blip into the physical world, usually as a form of light, not like as maybe as we know in Hollywood, like a physical craft. And then they merge back into this as a what's called the non-physical dimension. But to them or to us in the framework, it would be like in the astral world. So that's actually how they're traveling. They're actually traveling in the astral domain, a non-physical domain, and then blipping back into this domain. So it's kind of it can be confusing, and that's some of the clarification that we're talking about here. We'll talk about more sort of in the series.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so we are really excited about this. And again, you've been doing this for so long, and how you were, so we have our spiritual and our astral experiences and beings, right? But then we have the extraterrestrial. How do you identify, how do you personally can you feel an energetic vibration, a difference between the two, a knowingness?
Yeah, I mean, there's some, you call them myths or like, I guess, thought forms, ideas that do can get confused into the whole extraterrestrial, you could call it UFO scene. A lot of them are kind of negative thought forms. I'll just address one here. So a lot of people sometimes, like at the retreats that I'll facilitate, they'll ask if there are negative ETs. I've never experienced negative ETs in 15 years of because the whole point, and of course, this is a framework that people would be, critical to look at, but it to travel, to be able to travel like in that dimensional astral and then come into the physical domain, to have that technology of consciousness, which is something like I put in the write-up, it's almost hard to get our mind around, even though we're very advanced technologically, but we're comparing ourselves to humans like 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, not to civilization that could be a million years, or let's say 500,000 years ahead. So if we just use one quick analogy that I kind of wrote, if you took the cell phone and brought it back even 200 years ago, it may not have the consciousness of the people 200 years ago. That could be our great great grandparents or great 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 grandparents. So it's still within the realm of people that we might have even known. It would just simply be almost ununderstandable, like how I could be, talking to you on a video right now. Now, if you took that 500,000 years into the future, technology is basically one idea is that it's fused with your consciousness. So, like what you think immediately happens in the tech, and the tech comes back to you in that way too. So a little bit of how that might work, it probably is already in the works, is I could just think that I want to like double click on something on the screen and it would double click. It would be like that kind of fusion of technology. But this is even more advanced than that. That's how these craft kind of come from the astral into the physical. So, anyways, what usually might be confused is that in the spirit realm, like the astral realm, these are not extraterrestrials, but like spiritual beings. We have a whole array of spiritual beings. It could be human beings. And of course, there are angelic beings, but there are also kind of what we call lower astral beings that are maybe, resonating with more negative or emotional states. And so people might be having those experiences, like as healers, people who do entity clearing, you would be clearing sort of negative energies or that people know how to clear negative energies and also negative beings. But these aren't extraterrestrial beings. These are just lower astral beings that maybe are parasitic, for example. So someone might have an experience like in a dream state or in a waking state of a negative experience, but they may label it to extraterrestrials. And so that's where there's a lot of confusion. And there is even, and this comes from Stephen Greer's work, a suggestion that that thought form is put out to kind of hide the idea that there are actually very advanced extraterrestrial beings that you can make contact with. But if you have a lot of fear, which I was going to show and we talked about earlier, like a very similar analogy to making connections to these sort of awakened extraterrestrial beings is how we make connections, if anyone's ever made a connection to dolphins, whales, and then I was going to show some examples of manta rays. If, let's say, if you work with dolphins, which many people maybe listening here have, if initially someone told you like dolphins might be a little bit negative and do something, there's a small percentage of dolphins that are negative. Immediately, if you're new to making connections, you'll have that fear inside you. And dolphins are so sensitive that they wouldn't want to do anything to make you scared. So then they may not appear to you. They may maybe appear to you in your dreams or something because they're very sensitive. I would say they're telepathic. So so that's what happens, I think, a lot of times is people have this overlay that even may be suggested that extraterrestrials, that there's there may be a negative aspect of extraterrestrials. And that in itself kind of puts a barrier to the contact experience. Even with that, in those kind of 15 years or of just kind of having small groups, sometimes larger groups, we still had a lot of contact. So, they still will kind of meet you where you are. But I just did want to mention that in case people might have that, is sometimes it's in the subconscious because it's a big part of like media, even like movies, that extraterrestrials are kind of here to maybe conquer the earth. But they probably would have already done that. They're that advanced if they had that capacity. But the thing is, to be able to travel interstellarly, you actually have to have a very peaceful consciousness because you're in unity consciousness to have that technology to be able to travel that far. And I mentioned this idea of 30,000 light years. That's not even, that's not even to the backyard from where we are to 30,000 light years away. The universe, the physical universe is, in the millions. I'll have to look it up. Could do a quick search right now. Millions of light years or more, wide. Could be in the billions. So, so that I just wanted to mention that with the contact. Um, Maybe I'll
Yeah,
pause there.
we, oh my gosh, we just must look like such immature, unevolved people, almost just a little bit better than caveman, I would say. But it's wonderful to know that, okay, here we are. It's the unity consciousness. It's the elevation of extraterrestrials to be able to travel through time and space. Their vibration, their frequency, their love-based unity consciousness is the key, is the doorway. So how beautiful is that for us? And this is like a Star Trek episode where we, the beings on Earth, are being greeted or being visited by advanced civilizations to improve our evolution, to assist in our evolution. It really is quite fascinating. And we've talked about this before, but many people who have sightings of ETs or experiences of ETs, like their whole life can change because it's such a shift of awareness, of consciousness. Some of the contactees who have maybe been abducted, and that's we're kind of getting off on a different subject, but like their marriages may fail or change and shift because their energy is so shifted. So this is really fascinating. And that fear, the fear, when we see a craft, we could be moved into fear. So this notion of fear and getting our vibration correct first before we make that contact is really huge. So that's what these transmissions are going to do as well. They're going to help root out any fear, any collective programming that we may have that keep us in those thought forms that it's bad or it's dangerous or things like this. So it's really wonderful. Now, the CE5 protocol that you are familiar with Stephen Greer, it's interesting because this is what is done when we go into the marine world for communicating and meeting dolphins and whales and even the manta rays that are out there. So this would be a good time for you to explain what that protocol is, what that procedure is, because it is coming into the heart. It is raising our frequency to allow for that space, that interactive space to happen. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And you really hit the nail on the head. It's the unity consciousness. And just to describe what that is, it's sort of like just basically our pure awareness. So when you're aware of something, you know, you're aware of us speaking, Lauren and I, you're aware like of an apple. That awareness is actually already in unity consciousness. All beings have that pure awareness, whether it's an animal, you know, a dolphin, a manta ray, or an extraterrestrial from a very advanced civilization. It has that awareness. And really, it's from that one of the key points, you know, when you do the connection that actually the ETs or, you know, kind of communicated to me was it's a very gentle, light communication. Like sometimes we think we really have to, like the idea is like you show them where you are. That's part one protocol where you kind of almost like go out into the universe. We'll definitely do this during the training. We'll see if we have enough time here to do some short version. But you know, you imagine you're going out, you know, beyond our solar system, and then like a GPS, you kind of see yourself come back to your exact location with your consciousness. So, and they, because they're in unity conscious, they follow your consciousness. They actually see what you see. So if you show them like you're coming to the earth and you kind of look at the sun, that's like a third planet from the sun, and then you see yourself like in Australia, if you live in Australia, and then down to Sydney on the East Coast, you know, and then like to your house, they're just kind of watching your consciousness. I think in these very advanced ETs, they all actually look like almost like advanced angelic beings. So they kind of, I don't even think they need that. But in my experience, they could just like you could just make a connection and they could just know where you are. But let's say you follow that protocol, it doesn't have to be very hard like you think like they really have to see everything. Actually it's actually like light the way very light and gentle. It's so similar to if you wanted a butterfly, if you're trying to catch a butterfly, like you think you have to go, you know, kind of move like really hard and fast, but actually if you just put your hands out and kind of wait, then the butterfly will kind of float onto your hand. This is actually more the way the ET contact is, and it's a very kind of refined point, but it's a point we could accelerate to because it took like a couple of years to get to that point for me. Speaking of the caveman idea, because what happened was a lot of times you'll have the outdoor contact. We'll be doing contact wherever we are, and then at night you'll have dreams, and the dreams actually come from the ETs. And in this dream I had, we had just done well, I think it was post. It actually could have been right the night before. I was on this like a dragon ship. I don't know if like in Hawaii or like in maybe like in China, they have these big ships, you know, with the dragon head, or maybe in Vikings, and they were rowing to shore, this big dragon ship, and then there was this board, and I slung this like arrow at this board, and it like you know if you throw it too hard, it didn't like stick, it like fell, and then I don't know, this other being just showed me like just be gentle, like as if you were throwing a dart, and then it like you know stuck into the wood, and I kind of got the idea, but now on reflection I realized that that ET being, after having more contact experiences, or that being or the dream, was trying to show me it's gentle. And the thing is while I was reviewing this ET contact experience that Stephen Greer was having just recently, like in April, he said the exact same thing. So everything got integrated. He said the contact is very gentle, you know, and he's had like 50 years of experience. So it's sort of like seeing, you know, integrating people's experiences, and then your experiences finally kind of come to full expression. But I think that's one of the key points in the connection, is that it's a very gentle kind of consciousness that you bring to the experience.
Yes, okay. The gentleness, not forcing. Again, it's our frequency, it's a resonance. And so for us to make that contact, we have to be still, right? Do you want to share that video that you have as you
Yeah.
call?
Yeah, let me so I mentioned, people might and the sea creatures like sea animals, sea beings like dolphins, whales, when you do the ET contact, you can actually ask them to help you make the connection. They may be actually extraterrestrial themselves, as just as souls coming from maybe different locations in the universe and then incarnating into a body that can handle their energy, their consciousness. And recently, I did have an experience with the manta rays, and these are in the wild. They're not like kind of set up that way. And I realized that connection, also having a connection swimming with the dolphins in the wild. These are both in Hawaii, or those experiences were in Hawaii on the Big Island. The dolphin experience was actually on Kauai. You know, they're pretty much the same setup as connecting with the ETs who are maybe not in physical, bodies. But in this protocol, basically the connection that I made that we'll also do in the training is I went up into my pillar, like you kind of take this boat out to the part of the island and then you snorkel. And then what they do is they put out lights on this kind of like almost like a surfboard, and you just hang on the surfboard and look down. And the light attracts the plankton, and then the manta rays will feed on the plankton. So you have to do it at night. And it's random how many are going to show up. They say an average of 2 manta rays show up. So, anyways, I was like, okay, this is similar to an ET contact. So basically, I just went up into my pillar and just was with the intention to connect to the manta rays before we got in the water. And what I saw, it could have been my imagination, but what I saw, let's assume there's some truth to it, was a manta ray, and just sort of said, thank you, I love you, thank you for being here. And at some point, it's like, okay, we'll be there. That was the communication back, and then it kind of disappeared from the pillar. So we got in the water, and basically the conclusion was we saw the divers counted 15 different manta rays. So that's definitely on the high side. And, this is what they kind of look like. I'll share this here. And they came up really close. You'll see, with the GoPro, this is still probably about 5 feet away, but they came up so close that their underbelly was like just the whole thing was in the video, and that's how close they got up to us. So I think it's very, and the other part. Sorry about the coughing was as they came, and that just intuitively came to me is to focus on my heart and my forehead. And maybe this came from the Hawaiian influence, but just say I love you and thank you to each one that came up. And yeah, and maybe I'm not saying it's causative to how many manta rays showed up. Maybe it's correlative, but a lot more kind of felt that vibration perhaps and was able to show up, feeling comfortable in that space. So I just use this as an example. Maybe people, there is a connection between the sea mammals and sea creatures and the ETs. You can always ask them to help you in the contact. We'll do that in the contact because I know a lot of people have a resonance either with whales, dolphins, or manta rays, or all three. But it's the same level of consciousness. It's basically telepathic, and is very gentle. And like you said, the vibration is one of love, gratitude. That's the frequency that they're on. So you can see, just to kind of circle back a little bit, if we have that little fear, whether it's conscious or subconscious, like if someone said, sometimes manta rays take a bite of your leg, like that little insertion of that thought, and you can see how that's happened in the UFO. There's some misinformation, will kind of set the whole vibe for someone that it could be off. Now, what happens is then will, the beings, ETs, manta rays, dolphins, whales, will adjust to your fear. So they won't try to overwhelm you if you had coming in. So they'll just adjust to the amount that you could handle. So, anyways, maybe I kind of lost Lauren for a second, but I'll just keep talking here, and I'm sure she'll come back. Here she is. Um, so just back to that. So they'll adjust to you, and with the ETs, what I found is that they'll more do things like they'll appear to you in your dreams. There's some significant dreams that I've had with the ETs that can help kind of with this, accelerating the facilitation of contact. Also, they can be directive, the extraterrestrials. So if you have a big group, then only a certain portion of the group, maybe that's more familiar, will get a sort of a physical sighting or a tone in their ear, and another part may not get that right away. Maybe that comes with time or with more kind of comfortableness with the situation. So they're very loving. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Nothing to be fearful of. And in our 3 sessions that we have together, it's a beautiful place for people to share dreams. I know I've had my fair share of dreams with ETs after I had a physical sighting. And in a nutshell, it was the dream 6 months later was rooting out fear that I had because I was scared because of our programming, our earthly programming. So that's beautiful. And another time, just so many incredible dreams of that in this dream that I had, it was in Arkansas, Lake Washita, the Crystal Lake there. And the dream that I had that night, the next day I go to get on the plane, and three of the people that were in my dream were on that plane in front of me. And I thought that was so wild. And that was ETs, that was communication, and it was all about staying true to our heart and staying centered. So it's very, very fascinating. And there's going to be plenty of room for people to share their dreams and experiences in our live sessions coming up. So thank you, Jean. Each of these 3 sessions, do you want to go over what we're going to experience in each of these transmissions, and then maybe we can do a little experience with protocol or whatever you like.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I just want to show one last thing about speaking of dreams. Like if you see this video one last time, see the manta ray will come up and then it will do this flip, this barrel roll, and you get to see the underbelly. So they come up very, like I mentioned, that's close enough, but they also come up very close, like basically like it was like this close.
Uh,
Let's say that belly to us with not on that video. But I was thinking about that on the boat ride back, that it all these beings have auras like us. And like with a whale, when you see a whale sighting, its aura probably is encompassing you, even
mm,
though you're sighted so far away, because the aura of a whale is huge. And with that, I was thinking that manta ray, like what's its aura's um, uh, effect on us? Because it's probably like when it comes up, it's almost like if you were an energy healer, it's like projecting your chakras, your energy prana onto someone, almost like belly to belly. So, and then that evening, I did have a dream where all this colorful like food was like a mound of food was coming towards us. I was in a group, and it was all colorful food, and we were meant not to touch it. And that's exactly, if you ever go on these snorkel things, the one thing that can get you out of the water that the dive master will do is if you try to touch the manta ray. I mean, it's a little bit like tempting when they're that close, and particularly if you're curious, you almost like it's this close. You want to like maybe like tap it, but they have this mucous membrane, and it can infect them and so forth. So, anyways, I think that dream, because it had that similar feeling of like not touching it, and it's almost like a rainbow food was coming, was the manta rays communicating to me that you were on the right track. Like what they're doing is they're kind of giving us a transmission energetically when they do that. They expose their whole auric field to you when they do that kind of belly roll close up next to you. So it's very interesting. And the reason I bring that up, we're really talking about extraterrestrials, but I guess we're talking about all beings. Is the you mentioned this too in the beginning of your description, Lauren, like they by just even though we only seeing maybe for a couple seconds like these blips of light, that are the beings coming into the physicality, and there's a reason they're limited to how much they can come into the physical, which I might mention here, but is that there's a tremendous amount of like energy download into the group and into you that, like you said, can transform you. And that's what the basis of our transmissions that have been like in previous mastery empowerment classes, like with the Arcturians, the intergalactics, the Zermatt golden lions, is they're kind of coming in to do a transmission, but maybe non-physically. But when you see them like in a contact experience or with a group, or you make that intention, they can download you with a tremendous amount of energetic frequency information. And that's the reason I think what I found is that when you study energy healing, let's say you come from a very three-dimensional consciousness and you're moving to being more interdimensional, energy healing is sort of like the bridge,
Mhm.
because you understand, like when I said about the auras of the manta rays and the prana of the manta rays, people probably listening got it. Like, but if you don't have that information, you don't have that framework, you won't like, it won't make sense to you, like, oh, they're just belly rolling in front of you. You won't get that sense that they've actually communicated much more than you think by that energy transmission from their chakras, from their energy field. This is the same thing that happens with these contact meditations, and this is what accelerates humanity's consciousness.
Hmm. Really cool. Very, very cool. And in that video, when the manta ray came up to you and did a belly roll, that was you. We could hear you. You went, hmm. So you felt it, right? So you felt it. You're an energy healer. I find it really fascinating. Yes, that energy healing is the bridge to this. So those who are doing the work, they can sense. I'm getting goosebumps right now. So maybe I'm beginning to sense that it is all energy and it's energetics. And so, isn't it fascinating as well that Reiki, so many people who study Reiki and get trained in Reiki and do Reiki are then advanced in their skills and have other experiences. They begin to channel ETs or they begin to channel spiritual beings. And that is so true about the energy and something about the work that we are undertaking when we are working with energy, opening up our fields to energy. It's so fascinating. So in these sessions, we're really going to be receiving downloads and maybe recognition of experiences that we've had that then are confirmed or validated. Like we can look up in the sky and now, I mean, lately we've been seeing people reporting this where you don't see a ship, and it could be broad daylight, but you see a cloud, and that cloud is unlike all the other clouds around. It is more, it looks more dense, and it looks like it's definitely in a shape where the others could be fluffy, something, for example. And maybe it's almost like a rainbow, iridescent cloud. That's something too. So this is real. Would you say that's not just our imagination, but that could it be a ship under cloak of a cloud?
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll go over the different contact experiences that you can have, and the ones in the sky are just one portion. At night, they can come right and out. They may even be here right now, but they would be shifted into what most people's framework would understand as the astral domain. So they're non-physical. They could be like a ship could be like right here, right next to me, and like as a ball. And that's why when you do the orb photography or like videos, which I was also doing, I was going to show an example, but it could be an entire ship, but because of the dimensions, it's not in physical dimension. You could have an entire ship just like as a sphere or a ball, like right next to like my head. And then, then it might, if you have astral sight, you might perceive it or you just feel it. And then it could blip in, or if you have the infrared cameras, you could take a photo of it. Maybe I'll just show one because it could be an activation in itself. Um,
Yes, please. Wow.
mhm.
I want to that the infrared, as you're bringing that up, I just want to share a really cool Victoria Lillenquist. She's in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and she has been experiencing orbs, plasma orbs pretty much all her life. And actually, she's got a really incredible story. But she actually did an infrared camera, and there was a ship in the forest. So we were in an open plain. We were up in the mountains in Pagosa Springs. And she's like, she could sense the ships. And she said, over there. And so she pulls out her infrared camera. And then she's like, look, and in the trees, I don't know how this could be, but the ship was in the trees and the multicolored lights were in the trees. How can a ship be in the trees? It is phase dimensional then, right? It is not fully here, but it's a presence. So it's really fascinating, really, really fascinating.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I'm trying to share slides. I'm not sure why I'm not able to right offhand. Um, Maybe I will open something, the presentation.
Okay, good.
If not, then we'll definitely I could just describe it. But
No, we'll wait. We're patient. We want to see this. Yeah.
okay.
And so as you're bringing that up, I want to just talk a little bit about this course. This course is three parts, and we're for 2 hours every day, so it's a total of 6 hours. It really is an incredible experience. What happens in the group in this sacred container is a very safe place for people to share and for us to receive the transmissions. And then after the sharing of what people see in the transmissions is really informative for all of us as well. And the good news is that there's a bonus course that comes with this that people can watch now, and that's on the Golden Lion Zermatt 7. That was a really interesting one. You were in Zermatt, Switzerland, and you saw light ships. You saw ships, and those were the Golden Lions. And so the transmission that comes from that was very palpable for people who were in that. And so it's a great addition to this course. And so we're excited to offer that for everyone. There you go, Jean. It looks like you're bringing something up.
Yeah. If for the of all the things that I can click on, the one thing that I can is the slides as background. Hold on, one last try here. Um,
Or maybe just share your screen and show the image.
hmm,
You were going to put it on your background. I see.
yeah. Well, let's see. Is that no? Anyways, let but I'll just have to come back to it maybe. Maybe we'll save it for another time for the
Or maybe
class.
we'll save
But
it for
I can describe it.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, we'll save it for the
Mhm.
course. We'll have it ready for that. Describe it, please. What's going on?
Yeah. So what I was saying is like, you could have a kind of a sphere here that expands out. And a lot of these, like you said, in the Zermatt 7, what's significant about that was that we went up to the top of Zermatt and just for like half an hour went out there and just asked for, contact. And basically there were like 7 to 9 power-ups. That was the only thing in the sky, very clear. So the thing about that I was mentioning is that there is a limitation, and this was something again that Stephen Greer brought up that he had already told me or told the group in 2009, but it just kind of reiterated that like you'll go out and maybe just see 1 or 2 power-ups that are very directed, and it might seem like not much happened, but the thing is that every time the a ship comes into like that, like you said, from the astral into the physical, it releases neutrinos, and the technology of humans, mostly in the military, is much more advanced than we think, and they actually can pick that up. They have these neutrino radars, so the ETs are very aware of that, and that's been my experience over the 15 years. is that they can't always come into physical. There are some limitations because they could get shot down in a way. They have been shot down, or they could be shot down, or they can't always stay into the physical for that long, depending on what's sort of around. And so it's interesting that that neutrino light is, that we have technology, humans, to detect that, mostly in the military. They're limited to how much they can show up, but they show up as much as they can. And then a lot of this other aspects, they can, still affect us, still do the downloads, like you said, with the example you gave of your friend facilitator, through kind of what we might say as orbs, or when we do the transmission itself or the training here, when we call them in, it's not just waiting to, see the night sky. They could actually be in your room, but shifted into the astral. And then sort of kind of coming out into the physical very briefly. That's pretty much what I wanted to show with these orb photos, is that we did capture them kind of in this semi-physical, because the orb photos pick up infrared, so we can't really see that with our eyes, but we have technology, of course, that picks that up. And you'll see all these different manifestation of orbs that kind of really look very unique, which is probably these ET beings, but they're kind of in this astral form, and then they slightly shifted into the physical through the infrared. And the other thing about orb photography, or you could call it intentional spiritual photography, it is very intentional. Like someone had to be, thinking about taking those photos to get that photo. So they're actually interacting with the photographer, like to kind of almost intuitively get them to take a photo somewhere, and then they kind of will show up at the appropriate time. And of course, there can be random type of orbs created by dust or water. So you just have to take that into consideration. But some of these photos that I wanted to show are very, within the context, you see like, okay, there's a good percentage that this was, some kind of directed spirit photography.
Wow. Wow. Very, very cool. Okay. All right. So we are excited for this class, for this journey. So, Jean, as we experience something now, let's do something, whether it's a mini transmission or whatever you sense would be perfect.
Yeah, we'll kind of build on that kind of short manta ray experience, that because it was very like in the moment type of meditation. I think, this idea of being soft, gentle, and also normal, meaning you don't have to like get into meditation mode, although that's very good. You can make this communication in a very kind of quick way. Just realize that your awareness, just being aware of hearing like me speak and hearing Lauren, like image on the screen, that's really the awareness of unity consciousness, without what's in front of you. Whatever's aware of that is actually already in unity consciousness. So we'll do a short meditation to actually make a connection to what I call like universal consciousness, universally conscious extraterrestrials. And they're already probably present, but I'll just guide the process, and we'll just make a communication that to whatever you're comfortable with, that they can, communicate with you, even if you're open to a download from them. Because mostly when you are in resonance with their consciousness, it already helps you to stabilize, that more advanced unity consciousness. Anyways, you could just close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Just realize that you're fully aware and awake. And then just moving your awareness above your head in what's called your upper pillar, imagining it like a column of golden light. You can imagine everyone listening to this video, regardless of the time, as if we're seated in a circle and we have a big pillar of light that's generated above us, emanating above us. And just hover. You don't have to go too far out into the universe, just about 50 or 60 feet. These awakened ETs probably are already aware, maybe even orchestrated us all coming together. They're present right here, right now. They also are not limited by our temporal constraints. So we think we go from past, present to future. They may have already seen this event and already downloaded the event. Just simply see or feel what you see. Maybe you perceive orbs of light or maybe a being of light, similar to that gentle manta ray kind of swimming up to you in the video. If you don't have anything specifically to say, or you could just say, thank you, or I love you. Communication probably is more of a feeling, almost like when you are holding a baby, sort of feel its gentleness or love. You can maybe set that thought form that in whatever way is safe for them and for you, for them to appear in any way, shape, or form, that you're open to that at the right time. Just say one last thank you. I love you. If that resonates with you. And then coming back to your individual pillar, maybe about 1 or 2 feet above your head. The chakra about 1 foot ahead is very important, can integrate experiences. Most of what we received is probably subconscious or superconscious information. And as you hover at your first transpersonal chakra above your head, about a foot above, whatever information needs to unpack in the next 24 to 48 hours will be revealed to you at the appropriate time. And coming back into your body, moving your fingers and toes. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is a feeling, and we are getting very well equipped to recognize those feelings. And that is transformational because when we are in all spaces on our planet, we will recognize the feeling. That is key. How exciting. This is really exciting. Share what you noticed about that, Jean. I always like your insight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did feel like I felt like the swaying. I felt like the kind of energy swaying. Maybe I talked about the manta rays, but in the boat experience, but there was kind of this undulation, and that the communication was that it would be like more a feeling from them back to us than sort of like maybe some people got something verbal or visual. Sometimes you don't feel necessarily anything at the time, but the perception was we also received a tremendous amount of information that wasn't something that we were conscious of while we were there, even if you had a very conscious experience. That was why we spent a little bit of time, a little bit of guidance maybe from them to use our first chakra above the head. It's a very powerful chakra. I've talked about it before. We'll talk about it a lot more in regards to the extraterrestrial contact. But when you set that small intention, let's say we were here and we set that intention that what in the next 24 to 48 hours, whatever information we received would get unpacked, that will start to come to your consciousness. It could come as an awareness. You might just write these in your journal or down in your cell phone kind of notepad if you do get something after watching this the next 24 or 48 hours. Like this idea that the contact's meant to be gentle. Like this idea that I got that kind of took a couple of years to get that realization. That could be like the idea, like something very subtle but very crucial. So just be open to how that insight might unfold for you.
Yes, be open. Thank you. Again, we just want to say that by the end of these transmissions, by the end of this beautiful journey that we're going to take together, you're going to have that working understanding of CE5 protocols, the 10 level contact scale, and really truly how to initiate and sustain this sort of contact. It really is quite beautiful. The frequencies and the discussions assist us in that dream state interaction. We can open that dream state interaction and we can bring in these higher beings and receive these transmissions. Again, it's all to elevate our evolution. Would you say that the point of this contact experience of all contact is what? Evolution, or how do you describe it, Jean?
I would say it's evolution. I mentioned this idea of resonance. There are a couple of modalities like biogeometry and then the shamanic training that I've had that kind of brings us together. So when you're with a certain being, even like when you're interacting with friends, you're in resonance, you're exchanging energy and information. Again, most of it's like at this subconscious subliminal level, but it's actually a full transfer of energetic information that you're having. Like if you're, for example, dowsing a tree, the way that Dr. Ibrahim Karim, the founder of biogeometry, made the point of this idea of resonance is he drew the dowser's body inside the tree and the tree's body inside the dowser, like you're in complete resonance with that, exchanging energy and information. So now if you think about some of these ETs, like let's just say 500,000 years of into the future, like just like what we might be like if we kept evolving 500,000 years, we'd be in unity consciousness. There's a suggestion that our consciousness is fused with our technology. So you think it appears. And so by just even connecting to those beings, you're accelerating your consciousness because you're exchanging energy and information with a being, let's say, of that caliber, very kind and gentle. So almost any aspect that you're trying to develop spiritually will probably benefit from going into resonance with a being like that. They could help in that way. And I'm sure they're also benefiting from, going into resonance with us. So I think that like you hit the nail on the head. It's really about our cosmic and our own personal spiritual evolution. It gets accelerated.
That is okay. Thank you for that two-way street of the resonance. This is really important because the guidance that we're receiving, the information, the multidimensional upgrades that they're assisting us with, it really is beautiful. It's kind of a stretch for me to think that how could we, our resonance, possibly influence them? Does it just give them? Does it give them a deeper awareness of the multidimensionality and the diversity of everything, of how far we can move away from love and still be alive?
We'll have to pose that question, maybe pose that to them. I think we're all interconnected. That's the one thing that you start of course, we have that kind of idea in mind, but you get to start to get a deeper experiential sense of that interconnectedness. So there must be this sense that we could be actually connecting to ourselves 500,000 years or a million years into the future. The technology, the thing that you asked me about, some insights that happened this during this meditation was the time aspect. I started to say a little bit about it, and I think it was a download that was occurring, is that we think, okay, I got this idea, then I sent it to Lauren and like, okay, we're going to have this program and then we'll have this pre-video and then people will come and now you're watching it at whatever point in time. But actually, maybe it was already downloaded as a big package from ourselves a million years in the future back here, and now we're connecting because the technology will seem like just like the cell phone 500 years ago. We just, on the time aspect, we just may not have any conception of
Wow.
what it might look like, but maybe this gives an inkling that it actually could be a version of us
Wow.
that already got downloaded, and we're just unpacking it now.
That's mind expanding awareness that is so beautiful. And you know what? There is no problem in the presence when we realize that, when we tune into that. Wow, imagine that. Imagine that. I mean, I like that analogy of the cell phone. Like 200 years ago, our ancestors would not know what it is. Well, 500 years from now, we may not even understand from this point of view how we're able to travel in time like that. That is really beautiful. And as you were saying, this description, I was thinking star family. They really, that we are all one and that it is, there's no time in these other realms. And so that is pretty cool to contemplate. So we invite everyone to join us. We're really excited about this one. Again, this course is going to clear your inner resistance that is blocking your real contact, and you're going to align with these higher beings. And you're going to receive energetic support to expand your capacity to perceive and communicate beyond the veil. We're really looking forward to seeing you there. This is family. This is soul family in these sacred groups. And the transformation is so lovely and so enjoyable. And it's very safe. It's a very safe space. Jean, is there anything you'd like to add about this course as we say goodbye?
Yeah, I kind of got maybe the message in a nutshell, like why they would connect, because they're actually we're helping ourselves.
We're helping
Because
ourselves.
if we're that in the future, then we're actually coming back to accelerate our own consciousness and are benefiting us, so we're actually helping ourselves.
And we use that phrase, if time stood still, well, in this realm, there is no time. So it is if time is standing still and we're just making contact with extraterrestrials and actually ourselves, our future selves, our whole being, our higher self. Really cool. Very, very cool. All right. Thank you, Jean. We're looking forward to this. And all hearts, thank you for joining us and then joining us in this live session. It really is beautiful. There's a bonus. Again, you get the Golden Lion Zermatt 7 transmissions, and you can begin that right away and experience that right away. And it's just going to accelerate your whole journey. So thank you, Jean. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
thank you for your heart light at this time on our planet. Thank you. Thank you from your future self as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos